Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. It's very exciting for me as it's my first time in Korea. My name is Saraward. I'm the Chief Executive of Timebänking.U.K. and I am here today to talk to you about the concept of time banking, how it works, and how we measure the impact in our country. So to start with, can I just have a show of hands? How many people have heard about time banking and know how it works? Okay, not many. So I will try and explain briefly how it works. So time banking is a currency. It's a currency of time, not money. And it's about recognizing the assets in communities, about how we believe that every single person in society is of value. And time banking is a reciprocal way of operating. So I'll give you an example. If I was to help somebody in the community visit somebody perhaps that lived alone in their homes for 2 hours, chatting to them, having a cup of tea, then I would earn 2 hours. With my 2 hours, I could spend at the time bank asking for someone to come to my home or in my garden and help me. So the important thing here is that everyone's time is equal. So when people get to know others in their community, you are creating these mutual support networks. So they are practical and they are social support networks. And when people get to meet others, it makes them feel less lonely and isolated. Now, in the UK, we are finding that time banking is reducing the strain on public services. And we are getting investment from local authorities and our health service. But it's important for you to know that time banking is not a professional service. This is about people helping one another. If you were to pay for something, a service that you would require because it was professional, then that's what you have to do, because time banking is about us helping one another to the best of our ability. So you may wonder, what kinds of things do people share and swap time with? And we have a very simple cartoon questionnaire here, which depicts the kinds of things that people do for one another in communities. And one of the most popular time exchanges is things like shopping, visiting someone that's alone, helping somebody in the garden, or walking somebody's dog. But it can also be about the sharing of knowledge and skills that you might have, so that if you know how to play a musical instrument, if you know how to speak a different language, you could share those skills with someone else in the community, and again, an hour for an hour. So a little brief bit about Timebänking.U.K. We are a national organization, we are a charity, and we provide all the resources that is needed for a group of people or an organization to set up and run a time bank or a time bank network. So some facts and figures. So these are the things that are really easy to measure, because these are our statistics that we get from our time banking platform. So 268 time banks in the UK. I've moved away from counting these kinds of numbers because sometimes it doesn't give the true picture. Some of our time banks only have, say, 20 or 30 local people, and other time banks might have 2,000. So the number of time banks, I feel, sometimes is not reflecting the true picture. We know that there's about 17,000 people at this current moment that are swapping time with each other in the UK. And up until now, we've gathered the numbers that we've got 43,500 people that have swapped time at some point. Now, it's important to note here that also organizations can be part of a time bank network, and they can swap resources in exactly the same way that people swap their knowledge and their skills, so an hour for an hour. And a very quick example here is where an organization may have a meeting room space, which they would not charge for, that they would give to the time bank network for an hour a time. Or a school may have some transport, a minibus, that they would give to the time banking network, and again, an hour for an hour. That is how it's counted. So we know that up to today's date that we've had about 5.5 million hours exchanged. However, we've only been able to count them since the time banking platform has been in place. So there's probably many, many more hours that have been swapped. So the last 2 years, I calculated that there's around, there's less than 300,000 hours being swapped in a year, but this is growing every year. And in order to get some support and buy-in from our government and our National Health Service, we tried to equate that to the actual value of the currency. So 2 million hours of paid labour is happening with people swapping time in communities. However, this is the difficult part. It's measuring the impact that time banking is having on people and their health and well-being. So this is a good example. In Barnet, in London, we asked 47 local people who had been part of a time bank for 6 months how they felt now as compared to how they felt when they joined the time bank. So I've got 3 statistics here for you. So 85% of those people felt more valued as a member of the community because they realized they can help other people. So this is not about people just being the receivers of services. This is about people becoming the providers of services too. 77% of those that were interviewed said they felt fitter and happier. Now, this is interesting because they've been given a way of not sitting at home on their own anymore. It's going out and meeting with friends and other people. And 69% said they felt more independent. And a key thing here is the fact that they felt they didn't need to contact their doctor as much. So I think this is one of the reasons why we are now getting buy-in from our health service. Another way to measure the impact of time banking has been what the social value is, the social return of investment. So again, using the Barnet Time Bank as an example, over 2 years, these are the kinds of numbers that we counted of the different activities and the hours that were being exchanged in Barnet. We produced a report which basically showed that that time bank had cost £53,000 to run, and that had been given to us by the local authority. The social value was calculated using a national tool which is called HACT, H-A-C-T, which I can share with you more information. And we had realised, we calculated that the social value was £518,000 in regards to the £53,000 that was initially invested. So this has actually become quite important for us to be able to show to get more investment from local authorities. This Paxton Green Time Bank is very interesting. This was started in a doctor's surgery 11 years ago. And they also have measured the impact on people's health and well-being. But I just wanted to start by explaining to you the reason the doctor decided to do time banking is because he described his patients as being heart sink patients, which meant that every time he saw these same people coming into the doctor's surgery, his heart would sink, his heart would feel heavy and sad, because he knew that he was the only person that they ever spoke to. That's why they were going to the doctor. They were feeling lonely and they were feeling depressed. So over time, the Time Bank decided to find out exactly what people were feeling about the way the Time Bank had changed their mental health and well-being. So 76% felt the Time Bank had lifted their mood, 67% felt less lonely, 71% improved depression, and 83% made new friends. So we can see that this is a big impact is happening. One of the other reasons that doctors are now contacting TimeBanking.UK to ask for advice and support is that we have got 1.2 million people that are chronically, seriously lonely in our country. And the forecast is that by 2039, people living on their own will be 10.7 million people. So we have a bit of a critical situation in the UK with our NHS not being able to care for so many people. We also have a social care crisis, and the doctors know that people that go to their doctor don't necessarily need medication. They need other people. They need social interaction. So right at this moment, TimeBanking.UK are creating a time banking model that GPs and doctors can use. And I think actually today is quite a significant day because we've been told that We've put in an application for some money, and out of hundreds and hundreds of applications, we're now one of the top 15 to be able to get that money. So I'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll know in 2 weeks' time. So government support, whilst we don't have central funding from our government, we have verbal support for us and what we are trying to do in the country. Lord Lowe, pictured here, is our patron, so he's a senior member of the cabinet. He is blind, and he has been blind since he was age 3, and he wanted to see time banking have materials that make people that have sight loss easier to use time banking. So you can see him there, proofreading some very new materials we have that we have produced in Braille. I also met a senior MP pictured here on the right-hand side. His name is Robert Buckland, and he has just been given the status of the Secretary of State for Justice. So before I came here, we had a conversation, and he said, yeah, please do share the fact that the government is very supportive of time banking, and we need to do more of it in our country. So just before I finish, I've got a very short film to show you after this. But this was another breakthrough for us. Our Department of Work and Pensions, who basically look after our job centres, so people that are on benefits, understand time banking and understand the benefits it brings to individuals. So they have released a statement to all of our job centres in the country to say that anyone who is unemployed and on benefits, to signpost them to do time banking, because all of your time banking hours can now count towards your job-seeking hours, which is a huge thing for us. So it's really kind of put time banking on the map. Now, this is going to be a very, very quick animation, a very quick story, because I just wanted to show you that time banking doesn't just impact on individuals. It impacts on their family, it impacts on their friends, and it can impact on all of the people that are surrounding that person. And the idea of this animation, for me, was to show that impact, and also for this to be something that national corporations might look at to decide if they would like to sponsor and help support and fund time banks in our country.
Meet Edith. She is 83 with disabilities and poor sight. Edith lives in a care home and feels quite lonely. Meet Jane. She is 44 and lives locally and volunteers for the time bank. Jane hears about the care home and goes to visit Edith. She chats to Edith and has a cup of tea. Edith tells Jane all about her life in the village and how she used to rescue animals. Jane chats to the local animal sanctuary to see if it would be possible for Edith to visit to see the dogs and cats. They said yes. Jane tells Edith and arranges for some transport and a carer to come along to help with Edith's wheelchair and medication. They visit the animal sanctuary and Edith thinks it's wonderful. Edith returns to the care home, feeling very happy and looking forward to the next visit with Jane. The staff at the care home are very pleased to see Edith so happy. Jeff is a worker at the care home and asks Edith how she met Jane. Edith tells him that Jane is a volunteer at the time bank and gets time credits for every hour she helps someone. Jane spends her time credits at the time bank, asking for some help at home and in her garden. Jeff decides to join the time bank to find out more. He asks for his dog to be walked when he is at work and pays Lily 1 time credit when she walks the dog for an hour. Edith's family are thrilled to see Edith come to life, being chatty and bright when they visit. Time banking is a mechanism to encourage people to help one another, using time as the currency, not money. If you or your organization would like to sponsor a time bank to end loneliness in this country, contact Sarah Bird, the Chief Executive of TimeBankingU.K. Email sarah@timebanking.org. Visit www.timebanking.org.
So that was a short animation, and I'm kind of within time. I'm very pleased I've managed to keep to time, actually. I'd like to introduce now Hee Jung Park, and thank you all very much for listening to me.